All right, y'all. She said that she served in the Navy as a psychic because she's actually a witch and she does witchcraft. Now, this might be old news for you. Well, no, she just posted this video. But this concept might be old news for you. For me, brand new. And this sent me down a path of videos. And it made me think about something that I haven't thought about in a long time, or so I thought. Because actually, I think about the GATE program more than I would like to admit. Because I remember, because I was born in 1993, I remember sometime between second and fourth grade, there was like this test that went out. And if you passed the test, then you got to go into like a different class and you got to do some like different activities. And I don't know, I thought it was the coolest thing at the time because I'm like, dog, I don't even like school. I hate school. So anything that I could do that could switch this up and give me something different, I'm going to try to get that. So I remember them saying like, hey, try your best, yada, 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 don't guess, and, you know, take the test. I wasn't trying to rhyme, but it low-key spitting a little bit. So I tried my best, and I remember I went home, I told my parents about it, and I never really told my parents nothing from like a school standpoint because I hated school. And I was like, yo, I really tried my best. I hope I get in. Long story short, I didn't get in. And for whatever reason, I was really like hurt by that, low key. I was really hurt by that. So I find myself, even as an adult, I still be thinking about it like, dang, I really tried my hardest and I just didn't get in. I just wasn't good enough. And it's crazy because now I'm hearing these people talk because the self-proclaimed witch, she said that they recruited her via the GATE program, right? And then I'm watching another video of the UFO whistleblower, Jake Barber, who used to be a former helicopter pilot in the Air Force. And now this video is crazy. This video is crazy. He's explaining what happened when he picked up what can only be described as a UFO. When you listen to him retell the story, he literally says that he felt like he was possessed as he was retrieving this UFO. But later on in the interview, which I'm going to show you, he talks about how he was also in the GATE program and how he also believes that he is a psychic. Now, I know this is all very conspiracy territorial, so let's just make that very clear. But there is a weird sense of honesty that I'm picking up in both of these testimonies and in both of these videos. And so I just need to talk about it. That's pretty much what I need to do. That's why we're here, right? I'm going to start with this video. I'm just going to press play. You can listen to it.
A video of Trump blowing Bubba is not nearly as bad as this is going to get. So I've gotten a lot of attention this year for serving in the Navy as a psychic. And for anybody that's been actually following me, this is not the first time I've said this, but I've said several times that the reason that I actually served in the Navy as a psychic is because I am actually a witch. I'm capable of witchcraft. I've been on 2 different podcasts where I actually also spoke about being somewhat like a human crystal, in the sense that things that I am working on, my endeavors manifest a lot easier than most people's endeavors, right? The things that I want, I am more easily capable of manifesting things for myself or for other people. Either way, I served in the Navy because I do have psychic ability, but I was a witch. I served as a psychic because I am a witch. The government is doing witchcraft. I've said this several times. They're doing witchcraft. They're not even trying to hide it at this point because we're still watching an extinction burst, don't forget. But they are doing witchcraft, and they are trying to use it now to their advantage in this extinction burst to the only way they know how. But everything's kind of falling apart because the timelines are splitting, right? We are going to find out that the reason that they don't care.
Okay, she gets into a very crazy idea that I'm not going to play that part because it's not relevant to the video that we're talking about. So I'll save that specific part for a different video, because she says that they basically chowing down on babies. That's the most like censored way that I can say it. Listen to specifically what she said that she did when she was in the military.
Wrote in the comment, the GATE program did not do anything specifically to develop the talent. The GATE program was actually just to find people who already naturally had a level of ability with those talents that they could use in the future. If you were found to have that talent in the GATE program, you were monitored, and at some point you were telepathically contacted to start trying to persuade you to join the military, either telepathically or through other means. Your parents may have been contacted. There may have just been a large number of recruiters around you for some reason. Either way, it was not something that they were using the GATE program to develop. The GATE program was to find people. The military itself, if you ended up in the military, if you ended up in one of the special operations programs that they were looking for people for through the GATE program, that is where you actually got development of your talent. But it was not something that they actually sat down and told us, hey, you're a psychic, we're going to develop these talents and this is how you're going to do it. What I did in the military was psychometry. That is my specific psychic skill that the GATE program was looking for. They were looking for people who were good at psychometry. The way that the military developed that talent, and specifically
this is very crucial to the other interview that we're going to watch. This is very crucial information about what she's about to explain, of how she used what she says that she's able to do, interacting with technology and interacting with helicopters specifically.
In the helicopter squadron that I was in, is by teaching us how to inspect the helicopter. Anybody who was in the military, anybody who worked in aviation knows what a daily and turnaround inspection is, right? Anytime that an aircraft flies, after it flies, it has to have inspections done on it, especially in the military. Military inspections are a lot more strenuous than like a civilian aircraft inspection, right? But while you're doing that inspection, what you're actually doing is you're going around and you're touching every single piece of the helicopter, right? And they are so specific to teach that the way that you actually check, the way that you actually do the inspection is you touch you touch it. You touch all of the screws. You make sure they're not loose. You touch the whole piece. You touch everything. You touch it. So now I'm going to give you, again, this definition of psychometry. It is the ability to gain information from physical objects through touching them. If you go around the helicopter and touch the entire thing, every single time you do it, and we do it over and over and over and over and over, when you're learning how to do these inspections, you're learning the name of every single one of the things that you touch, the actual nomenclature that you can look it up, find it, order a new one, everything, right? You are actually absorbing the energy of that object. So if you are good at psychometry naturally already, if you could do the tangrams, you already had the ability to read the energy of objects. You can always already feel that all objects have a different frequency emitting from them. So when you were touching every single one of those pieces of the helicopter, you were internalizing the actual frequency that those objects gave off, so that then when there was something wrong with one of them, you would feel that frequency. It was already in your memory. let's say. So what you were doing with the tangrams, when you would pour out that whole bucket of tangrams and start sliding all your hands through them and sorting through them, is you were touching them all. You were feeling every single one of those pieces. You were setting them all around and you were playing with them. And anybody who was really good at the tangrams knows that one of your favorite things to do with the tangrams, for some reason, and you never knew why, was to just play with them. You would scatter them all over the place and then you would bundle them up because you wanted to, you were trying to feel the energy of each one of those objects, because intuitively you knew that you were already picking up that frequency from each one of them individually. And then when they would give you that final shape that they wanted you to put it into, your body would feel which one of those pieces that you had already touched went into that final shape. And then because they were different colors, your mind would see the different color shapes where they were supposed to sit in the final object. And they know you're psychic.
So real quick, before we get to the UFO whistleblower story, which is very closely correlated, believe it or not, very closely correlated. Just a refresh, because I don't know if y'all understand what I'm talking about when I say the GATE program. Do y'all remember stuff like this in school?
I was a part of the Gifted and Talented program in the 90s, and I just found my binder. The things I found. For starters, they had us doing worksheets in Morse code. Here's one of them. So they gave us at the top what the Morse code is, and then we had to fill out the rest of the worksheets to like make codes and messages and stuff in Morse code. A lot of our worksheets were about different codes. This one is literally called Codes to Crack. So you can see there, they gave us like 8 letters, and each of the columns is a different code. So for this one, there was 8 letters. They gave us the corresponding letters, and then we had to figure out the rest of the alphabet and fill in the rest of the column. But there's so much more. Like the stuff I found in there, I'm like, what were you training us for? Like, why was I 10 years old speaking Russian? It's cool, but I don't actually remember anything except that's my name. So I do remember that. I'll share more as I go through.
Do y'all remember that? And listen, this is not to be confused with the Gateway program, although now this is a declassified CIA document. You can go to cia.gov. You could read about this. Here's what I did, because a lot of people are saying that the GATE program, the Gifted and Talented, I don't know what the E stands for, but you know what I'm talking about. They say that it's very similar to the Gateway program. Now, I took this document, I downloaded it, I put it into ChatGPT. That's how I be using ChatGPT. I don't be using it like some of y'all to channel demons and stuff like that. I put it into ChatGPT and I asked questions about this specific document. And I asked it to tell me the correlations between what they were doing with the Gateway program, which they say that they were trying to, it says this document is about altered states of consciousness, binaural audio techniques, which is actually the same techniques that they used in the GATE program. If you remember, they would give you these headphones and they would tell you it was some type of like a hearing test. But actually what they were doing was messing and playing with your memory. That's like the most simple way that I could explain it. It also says that this program was about out-of-body experiences, expanded awareness research, and remote viewing and psychic functioning. Now, according to ChatGPT, this program was specifically about military intelligence research, mostly tied to the Cold War era experiments. It says it's totally unrelated to public education, although a lot of what was just mentioned in the Gateway program from 1958 has a lot of similarities to the GATE program that we saw being tested on us in schools. Because that's really what was happening. They were saying that we were testing in order to see if we were gifted. Like y'all were testing that technology on us. And within that, you were identifying if there were potential individuals who might have had specific giftings. Now, I don't know what y'all believe. I don't know if y'all believe that, because the Bible, people bring this up because the Bible says that God's gifts are without repentance, right? But I mean, when you look at that verse in context, it's not necessarily talking about the spiritual giftings. It was more so talking about like the gift and the promise to Israel. And it's not necessarily talking about spiritual giftings, but people like to use that verse to talk about spiritual giftings. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, but I don't know how you guys feel about people having spiritual giftings who aren't believers. Do you believe that somebody can have a spiritual gift and not be a believer? Or do you think that those are specifically reserved for believers? Because in the way that I perceive it, the Holy Spirit gives the gifts. So if you don't have the Holy Spirit, then you don't have the gifts. But then it's like, I see what y'all are saying, because there's people who have gifts who are able to tap into the spiritual realm. But would you consider that to be a gift from God? Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. You get it. I want to play this video from Jake Barber. Obviously, we're not going to watch the whole video. It's 2 hours. It's almost 3 hours long. We ain't watching the whole video. But I want to play this part where he describes how he's in the helicopter. He's on a retrieval mission. He doesn't know what he's picking up. They just told him, hey, go to this location. You're going to pick this up. He gets there and he realizes that it's nothing that he has ever seen before. And it's literally a spiritual encounter that he has. And I want you to listen to exactly how he describes it. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. I'm going to put it on 1.15 speed. Let's listen.
So what time of day or night was it when you came across the octagonal object, the 8-gon?
We did recovery on that both day and night.
So talk me through it. What happens? You're in your chopper?
Yeah, I'm in my chopper.
What sort of chopper?
At the time, it was a Bell 212, which is the same as a UHN1. It's a twin-engine, twin-bladed Bell helicopter.
You're flying at night?
Flying at night, yeah.
What time at night?
Oh, God. I don't remember. Like, after midnight.
Have you been given any pre-flight briefing?
I'm the one who would be given the briefing, but we are given a loadout on the particular object. But when you're flying an external load, we designate two different sites. One's called the drop site, one's called the pick site, you could say. The pick site is where the payload is that you're flying in to pick up. As you're making your first trip into the pick site, the payloads are already rigged and manifested for you to prepare them for flight. When you're en route to that object, you're given some basic information like weight estimates, size estimates. And
there's two objects that I'm here to talk about. One,
I don't know what happened. I think they had some technical difficulties from an audio visual standpoint. So this is going to pass in like 15 seconds.
was the egg. The other is what we called an 8-gon. The 8-gon was essentially a flying disc with what looked like 8 delineated sections when looking down. And I can tell you what it looked like from looking down because that's primarily how I saw it, because I'm a helicopter pilot. We did recoveries with the 8-gons. There was more than one that made its way to the ground on this particular operation. And the recovery was done at night, and then more was done in the day. Because of where we operate, sometimes things can make their way into this steep terrain. The terrain where we operate is the highest mountain range in the whole continental United States. And so the decision was made to wait till daylight to recover some of the object or some of the material that was brought down or made its way to the ground that night.
during the recovery of the object at nighttime, I make my way in the helicopter from where we configure the line and we fly to what we call the pick site. There's 2 locations. We designate them pick site, drop site. Drop site at the delivery location. We have a crew both at the pick site and the drop site on the ground. The pick team configures the cargo for flight.
So whatever it is, the craft is sitting in a sling waiting for your helicopter.
Yeah, it's sitting. We have these things.
Listen to what he says and how he describes it, because there's a good amount of people who say that he's lying. But I want you to listen to what he's saying and how he is describing it.
Called pumpkins, which are like rubberized bags or containers. And from my point of view, it was covered in a pumpkin, at least from the bottom and the sides. This is one of the most profound experiences I've ever had in my life I'm about to share with you, so bear with me. This is, for me, when it became clear. As I get closer to this pick site, I start feeling odd. I start feeling extremely emotional. And the closer I get, the more the emotion starts to overwhelm me. And
what do you feel? What's the emotion?
I feel a sense of my mother. I don't know how else to explain it. I feel this intense hybrid of sadness and happiness and beauty and song. And it was very disruptive to me because I had a very practical responsibility at the time to operate a helicopter in the mountains at night. And I began wondering what was wrong with me. It was late. I'm like, am I just stressed? Am I tired? Am I marinating in cortisol and estrogen? I don't know. But as I came over this object for the pick, there was this overwhelming sense of emotion.
What's it saying, the object? Tell me what you're feeling.
Like I said, it was an overwhelming sense of sadness, happiness.
Is it your feeling? Are you suddenly having a mental breakdown on the job?
No, I felt like something connected with me. I felt like something had tuned in to me and my soul and was providing me some sense of guidance on what to do and how profound what I was doing was. And it was so overwhelming that I began to cry. And
I can't imagine crying at nighttime with night vision goggles is the healthiest way to fly a chopper.
no, it is not. And then I'm confused as to why I'm crying at the same time. And then do I abort the mission? So I just did my best to focus on my particular cues when doing this type of work. And I got the load hooked up and I began flying away. And once it was just me and that object in between the pick and the drop site, there was about 20 miles in between, I felt like something was inside of me. I felt like I was possessed by the most beautiful spirit I'd ever been possessed by. And
was it loving?
It was loving.
Now, stay with me. This is crazy what he's explaining. Like, crazy meaning it's mind-blowing what he's explaining. But stay with me, because this is, like I said, it's closely correlated to the story of the self-proclaimed witch who worked at the military. All right. It's all about to connect. It's actually already connecting, but it's going to be a lot more clear in a second.
But there was a sense of sadness at the same time. And
had you ever had an experience like this before?
No, it was a very feminine energy. I'll tell you that. It felt like the spirit of God, but not in any masculine sense that I'd ever felt. It was like, again, the feeling of my mother and my daughter and beauty. And it wasn't like a soul, it was like a frequency that I was connected with.
Was it scared?
I don't know if it is a thing. I'm still trying to figure out why that happened. I don't
Listen to what he says.
want to say that because I have a pretty good idea of what's going on now. And whatever that force was since that night, it has stayed with me. And as crazy as it sounds, it's what's guiding me now. And it's what's providing protection for me.
It's changed your life.
It's changed my life.
Do you think it's made you a better person, that experience?
It has made me a more sensitive and aware person, which I think all of us would be better people.
So that was a moment when you became aware of, at the very least, a technology that had the capacity to touch you remotely.
Remotely.
Telepathically.
Telepathically.
Now, telepathy, we are told, is a nonsense. It's a fiction. So what happened after you flew the object in the sling to presumably the drop-off zone?
Once I made the drop, before I got there, I was really scared that I was going to have to stop flying and punch this thing off because I was so distracted. But then I was like, well, crap, now we've got another recovery site. Now we're going to have to recover this. I'm going to have to emergency land. I don't know. So it took everything I had in me at the time to get to my drop site, and I delivered this. Oddly enough, no one in my crew reported having similar effects from this. I do not believe there was a being in that craft. I've come to understand now, after being involved with other parts of the programs that are tested on the range, that there is a known and researched and implemented emotional or psychic, or what we call a psionic component to the research and development of the UAP program.
Now, Jake, I know it's going to be very...
This is where the connection really starts to take shape. I already saw it previous because I've already watched this, but this is where it really starts to take shape. And he just said it in terms of the psychic component to the program.
Confronting for our audience to hear this, but you think that you've discovered something potentially about yourself as a result of that experience, that you might in fact have abilities that you were never aware of.
I know in my childhood, if we look back to when I was a kid, I sincerely believe that the screening I went through in high school, my grandparents are, when I was a kid, the reason I joined the military is real simple. I wanted to jump out of airplanes and kill bad guys and make my grandparents proud. And my grandparents were the most amazing people I've ever met. They grew up during the Great Depression, dealt with World War II. And my grandfathers particularly were the strongest and the most sensitive men I've ever met, all wrapped up into one person. We can call them Navy Grandpa and Army Grandpa, let's say. So, Navy Grandpa was a very influential naval officer. He was actually a member of the SEALs predecessors, the Scouts and Raiders. Army Grandpa was an Army captain and a salesman. They both founded our neighborhood church and literally set the cornerstone to our church together. Unfortunately, their children, my parents, were very loving people, but made a lot of bad decisions. This led to step families for me at a very young age. And to get away from the abusive environment, I spent a lot of time outside. I would tell my mom I'm going to my dad's house. I'd tell my dad I'm going to my mom's house, and I'd bug out and just go live outside.
You were living in the bush somewhere?
Yeah, essentially I was homeless, but I just told myself I was a wild commando survivalist, and that gave me pride in what I was doing instead of shame. And so that I refined a pretty high level of independence at a young age. But my grandparents.
This is where he talks about his experience with the GATE program.
Parents were still always there, making sure I had some outlet for certain things. And so they got me involved with an art program and a music program. I'll have to tell you, so my Navy grandfather, he was the superintendent. He got his doctorate in education. And by the time I had graduated high school, he had retired as a superintendent of our school district. So he was a very influential man.
And I understand he ran the gifted and talented education program for that school district.
Yeah, you could say he was the ambassador for this area for the GATE program, which was a program for gifted and talented kids. And my personal experience with that was great. It was, I just got pulled out of normal class a couple of times a day, at least twice, and got to go to a private classroom where I had one-on-one time with a staff member there who played a lot of games with me inside and outside, and we ran a number of creative classes together. And outside of that, I also, after school, I would attend, I had a private art teacher, I learned music. And so I felt like I had a unique education experience as a kid. My grandfather also got me involved in water polo and swimming. He was a diver and a swimmer. And water polo became a great outlet for me. I found the competition and the physical exhaustion was like great medicine for me.
Looking back though now, do you think there might have been something special about your selection into the GATE program?
Well, if we look into my high school years, unfortunately, my senior year, I got in a lot of trouble. When I did show up to school, I was a bit disruptive in class. I had a smart mouth. I liked being a class clown. And I got in a lot of fights. And by the time my senior year came around, I was the varsity goalie on our water polo team. And 5 weeks into my senior year, I got expelled for fighting again. And at that time, I was on a disciplinary contract. So my accumulation of bad behavior throughout high school resulted in a contract, which was interesting. And it was a one and done fail situation. And 5 weeks into my senior year, I was expelled. At this time, my grandparents decided to hold an intervention, and I don't even think my parents or step-parents know, but the two men got together and met with me and decided to research military programs that would be available at that time. And so we made several trips down to UCLA, to an office near there, and I began going through a series of tests of all kinds. There were physical, physiological, psychological, creative tests. And we assumed that, all of this was pretty typical.
You know now, don't you, that the US Air Force has been secretly testing people through the GATE program for certain psychic abilities?
Yes.
Were you tested?
Yes.
Do you think that might have played a part in what happened to you that night when you were recovering that craft?
Yeah, and I don't know that the Air Force realized that. I'll tell you, I know others that I've come to meet through the program that we'll talk about that were in a Psionic program that have a very similar backstory. But for whatever reason, I was not used in that way. Again, my creativity and intuition resulted in, as I've shared with you before, being used for creative war games, being very creative in war games. But what I used as intuition, if we make a spectrum and we put intuition on the conservative side, let's say the right side of the scale, on the more far out side, that might be something that looks a lot like telepathy or telekinesis. And we call this psionics, which we can talk about. And so,
listen, I found this to be very interesting as well. Because I'm sitting here thinking like, those are some very massive claims that are being made, right? And I'll be honest with you. I'm not as skeptical as other people, but I understand that there is a lot of skepticism around this type of, conversation. I thought that this was extremely interesting. I just randomly came across this video of Dr. G. Now, Dr. G, something to note about Dr. G, he's one of those dudes who studies body language and he tells you if somebody's lying or not, or at least he tells you if he thinks that somebody's lying or not. The large majority of his videos is focused on like court cases, and he's going to tell you himself, the majority of the videos that he reacts to, he's very clearly able to tell that the people are lying, or at least he believes that they are lying. In this case, it was actually very different. And I want to play this because within this video of him reacting to his body language, there's also more that is revealed that makes the story even more interesting. All right, let's play it.
As I came over this object for the pick, there was this overwhelming sense of emotion.
Is it your feeling? Are you suddenly having a mental breakdown on the job?
No, I felt like something connected with me. I felt like something had tuned in to me and my soul and was providing me some sense of guidance on what to do and how profound what I was doing was. And it was so overwhelming that...
So as he was talking about that, after he said that sentence, you saw him lick his lips. That does suggest there's stress and anxiety associated with this.
Found what I was doing was. And it was so overwhelming that I began to cry.
After he said I began to cry, watch his mouth right here. They cut off, but just watch this for a second.
And it was so overwhelming that I began to cry.
I know this is in the middle of a transition, but you can see his mouth there like that. We do that when we disapprove of something. So I think the idea of saying that he began to cry, he disapproves of that idea. Probably thinking back that he was flying a helicopter and was crying, that probably distresses him. It probably is something that he disapproves of. because he doesn't like the idea of that happening. That probably made him feel out of control. But that does show a real emotion of disapproving of what he felt at the time, that he didn't particularly seem to want that right then.
My particular cues when doing this type of work, and I got the load hooked up and I began flying away. And once it was just me and that object in between the pick and the drop site, there's about 20 miles in between, I felt like something was inside of me. I felt like I was possessed by the most beautiful spirit I'd ever been possessed by. And
Was it loving?
So if you want to know whether or not that was legitimate emotion coming out, let's watch this right here.
spirit I'd ever been possessed by. And
So part of the reason that I think that that's real emotion, part of the reason I think that he actually feels moved as he's talking about this, is I've seen a lot of people fake emotion. It does not take many trials or much true crime to see people faking things, and verifiably so. People are terrible at fake crying. It is really, really hard to fake emotion like this because people overshoot. They'll pull out a tissue, they'll dab their eyes, they'll look at it. Oftentimes it's dry because they can't actually get any tears out. There tends to be a little bit more performance with it when it comes to somebody trying to demonstrate emotion or them trying to cover their face. There's a lot of things that people do because they feel uncomfortable knowing if I get caught with this, people are going to see that I'm faking emotion. This was pretty subtle. We're not seeing this big display of emotion. You can hear the way that he's breathing afterward. It sounds like somebody who is actually trying to stifle emotion.
Was it loving?
it was loving. But there was a sense of sadness at the same time. And
So that you can see his brow came together right there. Right now there's a look of confusion, of genuine confusion as he's talking about this. What we're not seeing is he's not, once again, overdoing it. He's not showing all these big displays of emotion. He looks genuinely confused about the sadness he felt.
but there was a sense of sadness at the same time. And
Had you ever had an experience like this before?
no, it was a very feminine energy, I'll tell you that. Like, in the program, there was certainly a desire to explore the idea that perhaps UAP could be summoned, could be communicated with, could be controlled, and could be persuaded to land, all by deploying people with psionic abilities.
And did you see that happen?
Yes, I did.
When a psionic
So whether or not he's telling the truth right here or he believes what he's saying is true, let's watch this right here.
And could be persuaded to land, all by deploying people with psionic abilities.
And did you see that happen?
Yes, I did.
So I talk about head shakes and head nods on lots of videos. It's very subtle right here, but I want you to watch his head.
With psionic abilities.
And did you see that happen?
Yes, I did.
So yes, I did. It's very subtle, but it's also very important because
So if I'm hearing correctly, is he saying that the people who the military identified as having, what is it called, psionic abilities, is he saying that they were using those individuals in order to summon what we're calling, quote, UFOs? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that what you're hearing? That's what I'm hearing. But I don't know if I'm hearing correctly.
what he's doing is synchronous. He's nodding his head as he's saying yes, which means he really does feel it and believe it. Oftentimes when people are intentionally being deceptive, they'll say yes, and then they'll shake their head afterward because they have to remind themselves, I got to show the body language for that. People don't do it literally in those words, but oftentimes that's what happens. What we're seeing right here is someone who believes what he is saying.
When a psionic operator engages with technology, how do they do it?
Using their mind, something like meditation.
There genuinely are people who can actually make a mental, spiritual connection to a technology.
Yes.
It's literally what the witch said that she did. She said that she would touch every part of the helicopter during her inspection, and she became aware of the energy to the point where she could touch a certain area of the helicopter, and just based on the energy, she would know that the helicopter needed service in that particular area.
100%.
They're the eyebrows again. Watch this.
Connection to a technology.
Yes.
So, yes. Once again, that shows surprise. It could also show emphasis, but to me, it looks more like surprise. So as he probably discovered this, he probably felt surprised. There can be shockwaves of that when we talk about it again. So when he's confirming this, he's raising his eyebrows. There's some surprise even for himself. So we'll go ahead and stop here. Hopefully this is helping you better understand some of the behavior and body language that we saw today. Shockingly for me, once again, we are watching somebody who is showing no overt signs of deception. And it's not just that I say everybody tells the truth. If all you've watched is my videos,
We are watching somebody that shows no overt signs of deception. Now, obviously, this is not like, this dude is not the end all be all of the truth. Like, I get that. But I just think it's interesting seeing and hearing from somebody who studies body language who isn't getting any clear triggers of deception. It's very interesting. Now, what exactly are they summoning? Now, that's a whole nother conversation. And to be honest with you, I'm not prepared to have that conversation with y'all right here today. Because that's a whole nother conversation. What exactly are they trying to summon? What exactly was the whole point of the GATE program? What the heck was the whole point of the Gateway program that a lot of people are saying that isn't correlated, but yet has so much correlation when you look at it? We can listen. We could speculate. We could definitely speculate. What do y'all think? Very curious. Number one question. Do y'all remember the GATE program? Yes or no? That's the top question. And then after that question, I just want to know what you guys think in general about this topic. All right. Get in my comments. Let me know what you think. Like this video. Subscribe. I'm out, y'all.